Hello, and welcome back to Cozy with Chelsea. I am your host, Chelsea, and today on the podcast, I have my wonderful, beautiful, magical friend, Katelyn. And Katelyn is someone who doesn't drink, but we're going to get into that a little bit more on this podcast and talk about alcohol, drinking, balance, and what it looks like for her. So, welcome to the podcast, Katelyn.
Thanks, Chels. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. We were just talking about this before I started pressing record, so
Yeah.
let's get into it a little bit. I know you haven't drank for a while, but you have your own perspective on it. So just tell me what that looks like for you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I went into this year saying I'm not going to drink for a year. And it was kind of just a function of having taken a ton of breaks in the previous couple of years, whether that was a few weeks, a few months, and always feeling really good when I took those breaks, and then having a really hard time finding balance after those breaks. So I would go back to drinking and I would just have this mental battle of like, I told myself I would drink less, but then what does that look like? Like it was constantly, okay, I'm out to dinner. Like, do I want a cocktail? Do I not? And it was just this game in my head of like, am I going to drink tonight? Am I not? And there were many nights that I would go out and I wouldn't drink. And, I moved to Denver being a less drinking person. And so all my friends know here, they don't expect any of that. There was no pressure from the friend group. It was all inside my head. And so after taking a lot of breaks, feeling good when I did it, having this mental battle when I would go back, I was just like, I'm going to do a year and see where that takes me. So we're now 9 months in, 10 months in. And for me, I'm just over the hump of thinking about it, feeling like it's part of my life. It's so easy to not do it. And the reason I don't call myself sober is because after this year, I don't know what that's going to look like for me. I want to intentionally think about how my life has been not drinking and what maybe adding drinking back might look like if I choose to go down that path. There are little things I miss, like when my family goes on vacation, we go to a really nice restaurant, we have a glass of wine. I miss those little things. But when people ask me, what are you going to do after this year? It's almost always like, I don't see myself going back to being any type of regular drinker, a very special event type of thing. I don't even see myself, drinking at home or even just on a date night or something like that. So, yeah, I think a lot of my journey, pretty much from when we became close in New York City until now, has been about finding balance. And one of those things has definitely been about the way that I use alcohol and how it impacts my life.
I feel like alcohol is a hard thing to find balance with. At least it was for me because, well, I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's me personally though. I think there are people that can find balance with drinking. But like you said, it was always that mental game or whatever that was that I was going through where it's like, okay, am I going to drink? Am I not going to drink? If I'm going to drink, how much am I going to drink? And then once I'm drinking, then I don't care anymore how much
Yeah,
I'm drinking. So
exactly.
eventually it was just like, okay, I'm just going to not drink and
Yeah,
not go through all of that mental work that I have to do. I don't know if you can relate to that.
100%. I mean, I think there were a few instances in my life that made me be like, why am I even taking on this battle of trying to find balance? One of them was I was home for some holiday and I had plans to go out with friends on like a Saturday, but I had my grandma reach out to go to breakfast on a Sunday morning. And I was like, "Ugh, well, I don't want to go too early because I might be hungover from drinking with my friends." And then I was like, oh my gosh, that is so silly that I am considering impacting time with my grandmother who has limited time on this earth so that I can go out and drink with my friends and have that experience, which frankly, by the beginning of this year, I didn't even enjoy doing anymore. And I think that might be just a function of where I am in my life and what I've been prioritizing and whatnot. But I wasn't even having fun by the end of those nights where there was a lot of drinking involved. And so, like I said, a lot of things sort of came to that decision. But I think the beautiful thing, and I know you've talked about this previously, but the beautiful thing of not drinking is learning all of the things that bring you joy outside of that, and like getting hobbies and realizing you don't need to be drunk at a concert to have fun at it. You don't need to be drunk at a bar to have fun at it. It's really about the music, the people, the other things. And so that's been really, really eye-opening as well. And I think too, I'm very blessed in that I'm not someone struggling with addiction. And so for me, like now that I'm 10 months in, I've done everything. I've been to weddings, people are always like, what are weddings like? I'm like, I dance my ass off. Everyone else is drunk. They don't care what you're doing,
Yeah.
like, and so I've done all the things that I used to do drunk, sober. And so I'm past that hump of feeling like I need that blanket to feel safe in that space.
Yeah, I can't remember what the first concert was. I think it was Hosier, and I saw him in New York at MSG. And
Oh wow.
well, I was nervous for a lot of my firsts when I stopped drinking, like the first birthday party I went to, the first bar I went to, the first concert, the first wedding. And I think that was the first concert. And I remember getting a hot cocoa at a stand. And it was like one of the best concerts I've ever been to
Yeah.
because, first of all, it's Hosier and he's
Hmm.
incredible. But also, I was fully present for that concert.
Exactly.
That's a piece that people, I think, don't think about because it can be kind of nerve-wracking to go to these events when you're used to having gone to them and drinking.
Hmm.
But the gift is that you get to show up as your full self for all of those
Yeah.
events. I know you said you're over the hump, but what was that like for you to go to all of your firsts without
Yeah.
drinking?
It's interesting. I wonder if like time has just made it seem easier, but I didn't have a hard time. And I think maybe because I did so many stints, like when I was taking breaks from alcohol, it was for health reasons. And so it was not a choice of mine, but still I wanted to have a life and try to be part of it. So I think because I had already done a lot of these things sober before being officially a non-drinker, which is like kind of what I consider myself, because I still do like mushrooms and weed occasionally. So it's like Colorado sober. I just had already had a lot of those experiences. And so when I went into it, I had no hesitation about what I was doing because I had had such good experiences doing it before. And like I said, it kind of moved to Denver. These people only know me as more of a sober person, which I think was really helpful. I didn't have a group of friends that our entire friendship was based around going out and drinking. It was interesting when I would actually go and visit those other friends. This is maybe when I was taking breaks and stuff the year before going sober, so last year. In Denver, I never overindulged. I really never got to that point where I was like very drunk. Maybe obviously there's like a handful of times, but for the most part, I was pretty level. I would leave early. I had already just set this expectation with my friends that this is who I was. And then I would go and visit friends from college, from high school, where I've had very deep relationships with those people, but also a lot of what we've always done has gone out and party. And I would slip right back into it. And I would be overindulging and I would be drunker than I've been in months. And so it's really interesting. I think I was blessed but with an easy transition because I had already sort of set that expectation with my friend group here. And so it wasn't as challenging. Like I didn't have to explain to them that I wasn't drinking. It was like a given. I think that was a big probably difference from your experience where you're like, I don't know I had 3 months where I couldn't drink when I was living in New York. I also couldn't really eat anything. I went home. I was like, I
Yeah.
can't do this. What am I supposed to do here? There's nothing to do. So I
Yeah.
think too, like in Colorado, you just have so many options of things to do that people drink at, but also that they don't. And so you can do all these like outdoor activities, and they're not necessarily centered around partying, which is a big blessing as well.
Well, I have similar to you. I had a 3-month stint because I was also having health issues. And that's where I didn't drink and also couldn't eat very much, which was not fun. Limiting
Yeah,
all of that at one time is not ideal.
it's not.
And I don't
It's
even know
not
if I'd
good for the
recommend it.
mental
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
When people ask or are going through similar things, I'm like, there's just so much joy in food. And I think I'm kind of I'm dairy free and gluten free right now for health reasons. And I feel lucky that I live in a place where I can cook. Like in New York, it's just like you don't even want to cook. And I have a partner who lives with me, and so eating at home. There's a lot of different reasons why it's easier now. But yeah, in New York City, when my kitchen was, the size of a file cabinet, and all we did was go out to eat and enjoy different cuisines, and that was a big part of the joy there. It was just like, I don't recommend this to anyone. I was so depressed.
Yeah, getting sober in New York is a experience in and of itself. I mean, that is where, well, I had my 3-month stint in New York,
Right.
and then I went back to drinking, and I was just I might cut this, but I was just telling someone about what the first time I drank after the 3-month stint was actually I was with you,
You were?
and it was like the first time I drank after 3 months, and I got so drunk and I fell down some stairs. But
Oh,
um,
woof.
anyways, what was I saying? Getting sober in New York
Yeah.
was an experience because I also got fully sober in New York.
Right.
And that was when I finally was like, okay, I'm done with drinking. I'm over it. Like you said, like it wasn't even fun for me anymore. I think also a piece of it though, where why it wasn't fun is because I didn't really want to do it. I wasn't really wanting to go out all night and drink all night and feel like shit for the next 3 days. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
really wanting to do it. It didn't align with my priorities anymore. And that's why it wasn't fun for me.
Yeah.
But it was a struggle to get sober in New York. But I think the fact that I did it in New York meant I could do it anywhere.
Yeah. For sure. Definitely.
And I still was able to do a lot. You have to adjust your way of life though, right? Because
For sure.
before I was just going out all night and drinking or going to dinner and drinking. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, I'm going to Central Park
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to the West Side Highway and I'm going to a museum. And I mean, there's
Right.
plenty to do. It just looks a lot different than the glamorized Sex and the City version of New York.
For sure. And my 25-year-old self was like, there's nothing else to do in this city where there's, so much to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that going sober has taught me, or not drinking has taught me, is that there's so many things that we do just because we do them all the time, like out of habit almost, or routine. Like we've just built these routines of, like, I remember even when we would go out in New York, we'd go to the same bars, and every night we would be like, why do we come to this bar? We don't like this bar. We don't have a good time here. But we would keep doing it. And it's just like we are creatures of habit, and we get into these routines where it's easier to just keep doing them than to think of like new things to do. And it's forced me to think of other parts of my life that are maybe not great habits or routines, or the opposite, like force good routines into my life. It's just kind of gave me a perspective on like how strong that can be, how strong that routine can be. I think it's important to sort of assess like where are you spending your time and where do you want to go? And are those things aligned? Because it's just so easy to like do the same thing every day, every weekend, every month. And then all of a sudden you get to the end of the year and you're like, I wanted to do all these things, but I didn't because I just did the same thing every weekend.
I think, I do think that's a huge hurdle, though, in quitting drinking or stopping drinking or reducing drinking is adjusting your routine
Yeah.
because my entire social life centered around alcohol.
Yeah.
So it was a 180 lifestyle switch. And I had to figure out, okay, what do I actually like to do that's not drinking or not
Yeah.
centered around drinking? It's great that you were able to move to Denver and enter as this new version of
Yeah.
yourself versus having people adjust to what they were used to. But what did it look like and what did you start doing?
I just got very active to start because I was like idle and lonely, and I didn't become comfortable with that for a bit. So I was just out of the house, walks. I mean, hiking. I know you love to do that in the winter, skiing like every weekend. It's great when you have these things that can distract your mind, right? There were these activities that I could be fully in from a mind perspective. And so skiing was a big one of those things because the beginning of the year it's all skiing every weekend. And the tough part of that is like the end of a ski day typically ends with like a beer. And again, it's that habit, that ritual of like, oh, crisp beer sounds so good right now, or would feel so good right now. I'm also so lucky. I know most places have NA now, but Colorado was very early to that scene. So all of the resorts have athletic brew. And so I could still crack a beer open. And it was those little moments where I'm like, oh, I feel the exact same as I would have been if I was drinking an alcoholic beer. That gave me fuel to keep going. And then after ski season, I kind of needed to be comfortable in stillness. And that was, I think, the hardest part and something that it's interesting. I had like this vivid dream about a praying mantis last night, and
Okay.
they symbolize like stillness. And so this has been a theme in my life of being comfortable in stillness and not feeling like I have to do something. Because even when I'm skiing, I feel as if I'm being productive because that is an activity, it's bringing me joy, I'm working out. And so in the spring, which in the mountains we call the shoulder season, like there's nothing to do in the mountains. It's like wet, you're not really going on hikes and stuff. I had to be comfortable with stillness and just being okay not going out on the weekends or going to the farmer's market on my own. Recently, I've gotten into cross stitching, just things that I can do on the couch that are not scrolling, but still somewhat stimulate my brain. But I think that was probably the hardest part also because I didn't have a partner at the time. It could feel very lonely at first. Maybe I should just go out. And trust me, I still did. I just didn't as frequently because it just doesn't feel like, it's not as fun typically. I was like, how do I get comfortable just being at home and doing things alone because my friends are tired in the morning and I want to get up and go because I didn't go drink that night. So that was definitely an interesting piece.
When I stopped drinking, I also didn't have a partner. It was a lot of time alone. I went on a lot of
Yeah,
walks
so many
alone.
walks.
And I also took up running in the beginning. I don't do that anymore either, but I kind of needed that at first to get it out.
Yeah, no, I
And
feel that.
by it, I mean my frustration.
Yeah,
Um, or really even just all the energy I had all of a sudden.
yeah.
It's like there is so much time.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt when I stopped drinking because it would take up time, the actual drinking portion, and then you
Mm-hmm.
also kind of lose the time.
Right.
And then for me, again, the hangover was a day, but more than that when it came to the mental aspect of it. And so
For
I'm just
sure.
losing all of this time. And I had so much time, which is great because I had time to do things that I loved to do. But I relate to what you're saying about being comfortable with the stillness and even sometimes the loneliness of it because it was a lot of time with myself.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I know. And you start to think, is this what, like, do people spend this much time with themselves? Like, how was I not now at this over the hump stage? I'm like, how was I not spending this much time with myself before? Like, no wonder why I was so lost and I didn't know what I was doing and why I was doing it and where I wanted to go because you finally get into a stride by Thursday or whatever, and then you have to start all over to get back into that stride of being in your body and all of that. And so now I cherish that time with myself that I get to like actually be introspective, and I try my best not to disassociate with other things because alcohol's not the only one, right? It's made me really think about, we come back to balance. There's a lot of things in my life that I do balance, but there's a few things that I know I just have a very hard time balancing: alcohol and social media. And
Yeah.
so I don't have Instagram. I have Facebook, and occasionally I do scroll Facebook Reels. So that's the social media that I get. As you can imagine, they're not as intoxicating as Instagram.
Yeah.
So, but even still, I'll have to delete the Facebook app if I find myself on it too much. But those are two things where I've just told myself, you clearly, I'm challenged to find balance here because I would be on Instagram without thought. Similar to drinking, I would drink without thought, and then I would lose all that time that I could have been spending understanding myself better. And don't get me wrong, I don't just like sit there and think about myself all the time. Right? That's not what I mean by that, but I'm in my body versus in the screen.
Mm.
So that's another place where, to me, like, I think balance can mean different things and it doesn't always mean like 50-50. It's whatever the right thing is for you. And so for me, at least in this phase of my life, which is why I don't call myself sober, because I want to keep open whatever is right for me at different phases of my life. And I don't want to, I know myself, the more strict I am to myself, the more I want to lean into whatever the thing is that I'm taking away from me. So I leave open that flexibility only because for me and where I am right now, drinking isn't serving me. And, I don't know when it might ever serve me again, but I don't want to limit myself. Same with social media. I think, more flexibility there, and that I'm sure eventually I'll get back online. But I just know when I was going through this sobriety, I was leaning so heavily on social media as a way to not feel things that I was feeling. I was like replacing one with another. And I realized I'm just doing the same thing I was doing before, but with another avenue. Balance for me in those two things mean just not having it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been an interesting lesson because everyone, the old age old adage or whatever, I use words wrong all the time. So I'm
That
sorry
sounds
if
right.
that was wrong. My partner's like, I know what you mean, but that's not is, everything in moderation or everything in balance. But I think in this world where there's so many things that our brains can get addicted to so easily, and it's so hard to have that balance, that sometimes it's just balance is cutting it out, and that needs to be okay.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't see myself ever drinking again. And
Yeah.
I'm someone who doesn't like to have a lot of restriction
Hmm.
because especially with like food, for example, because it will just lead to disordered eating.
For sure.
Um, but these things are complex and
Hmm.
nuanced. And like for me personally, with alcohol, it's just not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, if that's the right
Yeah.
phrase. It's just so negatively impacting. my overall well-being in every aspect. So like for me, it's better to just not drink.
Mhm.
I'm also not interested in moderately drinking.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't want to do that. Where some people do. And
Hmm.
that's like, even I have a friend who I had on the podcast, and she considers herself a non drinker, but will have a drink sometimes. Because it's
Hmm.
like there's all these terms and words,
Yeah.
and like you said, you have to figure out what is healthy for you. You don't
Hmm.
have to subscribe to black and white thinking. You don't have to, call yourself sober. I think there should be a lot more room for discussion around that and how that can look different for each person. But I do relate to, I don't know, it's interesting to talk about how balance might be not having something at all. Because
Hmm.
and also when I got sober, like you said, I started to realize, okay, what else am I using to numb out? Because that's what I was using alcohol for, was to numb what I was
Hmm.
feeling. And social media did that as well. Food did that sometimes.
Yeah.
There were all these different things. And I got rid of social media when I got sober, because I think you just start to realize, oh, I'm basically addicted to this thing.
Yeah.
It's numbing me out. I'm losing time, and it's negatively impacting my well being.
Hmm.
But I've been kind of struggling with that because since I've launched this podcast, for example,
Yeah.
or a business, I've been using it to promote it. And that has been a whole other, because it's like, I don't even want this stuff.
Yeah.
And yet I feel like I kind of have to use it to get the word out. So if you have the answer for that, that would be great.
I'm actually hoping you find the answer by the time I
Okay.
make my way back to it. Because similarly, I mean, I have aspirations. I'm right now hoping to buy a manufacturing company.
Okay.
This is an interesting thing in balance. We're also like segueing from alcohol, but
Yeah.
I think balance for me is allowing all the facets of yourself to like show up and look different every day. It's a somewhat nuanced description, but for me, eventually I want to do something very similar to like what you're doing, and I think it's so exciting. But I'm not quite ready for that. I want to also own a business and grow it and then do that after, be a healer throughout that. I just know I'm not going to be satisfied if I don't like scratch that business itch. And so I'm like, I want to acquire a manufacturing company, and also I'm this like woo woo witchy person that like wants to be a healer and believes in chakras and stuff, which I think is funny. So when I bring my when I find my way to the healing aspect, I hope you figured out how to balance social media while also using it for your business
You
because
know, I've been playing with it. And right now, with social media, it really feels like I don't know anyone who has social media and feels like they're not a little bit addicted to it.
100%.
Like it's
They're
just a
always wanting to
fact.
spend less time on it.
Yeah, exactly. Struggling with the amount of time they're spending on it. So, what I'm doing right now, because I know that I do want to put stuff out there and I love creating, and there are parts of it I love. I love interacting with people that I align with. Like that has actually been fun. Because I've never created so much on social media, I've
Yeah.
mostly consumed, and that didn't feel good.
Hmm.
Whereas, specifically on TikTok, for some reason, I'm creating content that I love,
Hmm.
and it's attracting people who also enjoy it. And that feels good.
Yeah. It's like
So,
community.
exactly. Yeah. And TikTok will show me who follows me. Like it will show me what they're posting. And I'm like, they're so
Mm.
cute. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
So there's pieces of it that I really love, but I still don't love how much time I spend on it, or
Yeah.
if I care about how many likes I'm getting or comments or
Right.
any of that's. So I'm still navigating it and figuring
Hmm.
out what that balance looks like. But for now, it's just focusing on using it as a creation tool more than a consumption tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my balance right now.
I think it's interesting, like this is this a specific scenario, but I don't know if you know, Taylor Swift launched an album
I
recently.
do. I am
Yeah,
aware.
I'm sure it's been all over the internet, as I've heard. This is one example of where I formed my own opinion. I didn't know what anyone else was saying about it. It's contrary to what apparently most of the internet thinks about it. I loved it. And it's just like one of the examples of how we are all so influenced by each other, whether you're an influencer or not. We are consuming content that influences the way that we view the world. And I feel lucky that I was able to make my own opinion on that and not be influenced because I'm enjoying that album. But other things are like, I don't have the desire to shop as much clothing wise. And a function of that is like Denver is like so chill. People are not dressing up. When I was in New York, I always wanted to look
Yeah.
so cute. But another function of that is like, I'm not on the internet consuming all of these cute outfits and feeling like, oh my God, I need that one slight variated jean from like the other 10 jeans that I already have in my closet. I just don't get that desire. I shop way less. I've been off Instagram, I think, longer than I've been off alcohol. It's almost been a year. And my Facebook content is like mostly conspiracy theories. So it's like, it's not outfits and stuff. So I just don't have this desire to go shop or feel like I'm missing out on all of these things. I enjoy my life so much more and I maybe have more gratitude for the life that I have now than I did when I was viewing everyone else's highlight reel on social media because obviously it's never gonna live up to, as we all know, the highlight reel that is socials. So those have been a couple interesting things of learning after going off of Instagram is just like I feel like I have my own opinions on things and I don't want all these things, these consumer things that, were like little dopamine hits, but I have much better ways to get that from the people I love and doing the things I love, which feels
Mhm.
good.
I will say that, I mean, I had a good amount of time off of social media. I had, I think, more than a year,
Mm.
and it was great. It was really great.
Yeah.
I relate to what you're saying about you get to form your own opinions. You're not being influenced by people. As soon as I got back on, even just for the business, it was like, oh, I need this yoga mat.
Right.
I have to get this yoga mat.
If
Like,
I don't get this yoga mat, I will be sad for years.
yeah, it's wild. And I got it, by the way. And it's not even
Are
that
you
great.
happy?
No. It was
One of the things I used to do is like if I was really drawn to something, I would save the link somewhere. And if I thought about it 5 more times, I would buy it. But you probably were thinking about this yoga mat because it's constantly coming up on your feed.
absolutely. Yeah. And I used to do that too. I would have a notes app where I would say, okay, if 2 months from now, a notes app, a note in my notes app,
I know what you mean.
uh, if I want to buy this 2 months from now, I'll still buy it. And it's like, yeah, I still want to buy it 2 months from now.
Yeah, of course. It's just like it's crazy how real the consumerism part of
Yeah.
social media is.
Well, it's like I keep seeing
Another
this beautiful girl use this yoga mat. I gotta get
right.
it.
And I'm gonna feel beautiful when I get the yoga. It's gonna make me look just like that girl.
I don't even know where it is right now. It's in a box somewhere.
I was just thinking I resonate with what you said about having to take care of yourself first. I think all of these, everything we've talked about so far is like ways that we take care of ourselves first. But I think for a long time in my life, like on this journey of balance, there are things that I do somewhat and somewhat not. In this journey of balance, when I was so out of balance when I was not taking care of myself first. And I think about this is silly, but go with me here. When you're in the airplane and they tell you if those things drop down, you have to put it on yourself first before you put it on a kid because you're no use to your child if you're dead, right?
Mhm.
So I think about that when I first used to hear that. I'm like, what? Who would do that? I'm sure every mother would take care of their child first. But now I can appreciate the metaphor in you can't take care of your child or anyone else in your life. You can't give to anyone in your life if you're not giving to yourself first. And what brought me so out of balance and got so burnt out is I gave everything I had to my career when I first was out of college. And frankly, probably during college as well, my career, school, and drinking. But I was just so dedicated and I had so much worth built up in my work that I was not taking care of myself first. I was sleeping until the last very second, wake up, as much coffee as I can handle, pretty much an IV drip, and then working until I went out that night or went to bed. And so that burnt me out so much that that is what started this journey of finding balance for myself in my life, and what really got me thinking about what does balance look like. And I think the toughest thing is that it looks different every single day. And there are boundaries or guardrails that I put in place. I don't consume social media. I don't drink. Those are things that help keep me in balance. But within there, it's not like I wake up and I spend 50% of my time on work and 50% of my time on wellness. It's different and it depends on the way that I feel. And when I was listening to your podcast about intuition this morning, so much of how I determine what balance looks like for me that day, that minute, that hour is by tapping into my intuition and understanding what my body needs that day or my mind needs that day. Sometimes I set up and I'm like, Thursday I'm going to get all this stuff done. I've got this large to-do list, no meetings, and I wake up that day and it's like, it's just not going to happen. That my brain's not ready for that today. And I think that's been the hardest thing, going from someone who was such a doer and feeling like all of my worth was wrapped up in what I could do and the output that I could have, into being someone who was a receiver and allowed myself to receive what I needed and understand what I needed. And a lot of that sometimes is doing. Like, I still do things and I enjoy that, but also it's understanding when I just need to sit and not get the 16 things on my to-do list done that day.
It's funny you use that metaphor because on a podcast I recorded a few weeks ago, I talked exactly about that, the airplane
Really?
thing. Yeah.
That's so
Because,
funny.
but it is so true. You have to take care of yourself first, and then that allows you to show up for other people or for your job or insert whatever it is there. But it's true that you have to take care of yourself. We used to have so many conversations in New York about my job and how burnt out, truly I was burnt out
Yeah.
that at that point. And you would always tell me, you had such great answers that I didn't take. But eventually I incorporated some of that.
It's
But
okay. We all come around at our own time.
but it is, I mean, you can only overextend yourself for so long. Or you can only drink so much for so long until you realize this isn't working for me anymore. And I do have to take a step back and I have to re-examine my relationship with my work, with drinking, with social media, and allow myself to rest and take care of myself.
I think the thing with balance is, like, I think of all of these segments of my life as like a pie chart, and they're always kind of moving. Every day might be more time in this space, more effort in this space, but it should never be like 100% on something. Because when your worth is wrapped up 100% into something, that thing starts to falter and you crumble completely,
Yeah.
right? That's why I would have all of these breakdowns at work, when in reality I was a very high performer. The thing about consulting is they freaking rank you against your class. So I was always in the top 5% of my class, even after college. I'm getting these like rankings. I was a very high performer. I was on the expedited track for promotion, and yet these little things would happen, things that were obviously not impacting my performance outwardly to other people, and I would have full breakdowns because I didn't have worth of myself in other aspects of my life, or even as I've learned just being who I am is worthy. But at the time, I was just so wrapped up into that one thing faltered and I had nothing else to lean on. That was everything. And so, again, I think if you're taking up the pie chart too much in one thing, naturally that thing's not going to go 100% well 100% of the time. So you need to have that balance so that you can lean on other aspects of your life when certain things falter.
I like that. The pie chart.
The pie chart is interesting because I think each phase of your life you're going to index on certain things as well, right? I think as a society we put so much value in work, and that's where we spend so much of our time. And there's going to be phases of your life it's just not going to be the main part of your pie chart. And I think the sooner that you can learn that, the more successful in the long run and the more gratified you'll be as a person. At least for me, that was the biggest challenge.
That was a big challenge for me too. And mine is even, well, if we're going to get so into it, but my childhood was, I was given love based on performance, right? And then that went into my work because I worked with my family. So that was my worth. That was where I got it from. Because one, I got it from my performance at work, right? I got accolades, I got recognition, I got love, quotation mark. And that just from the work piece, and then also from my family that I worked with. And so everything was wrapped up in my job. And that was a lesson I had to learn, that my worth isn't based there. But I think it's interesting what you're saying, because a lot of people struggle with this at work, especially high performing, high achieving women, men as well. And you do spend a lot of your time there. I think that's part of it, right? Because if you're looking back on your life at the end of your life, you're not really thinking about your performance at work, right? It's not what we're living for, but it is how we make a living. And we just spend time there and we're speaking to these people. Like even at work, if something will happen, I'm worrying about it, freaking out about it, stressing out about it. And then I think it has something to do with me as a person,
Right.
you know, like I'm internalizing a work issue when in reality it's like, oh, it's just something that needs to be fixed at the company I work
It's like
for.
not that big of a deal, right?
No,
Yeah.
it's really not.
I know. I think there's two things that come to mind. One, have you heard of the concept of your business resume versus your eulogy? And it's like
Not
you
heard
work
about that.
so hard to build up this business resume. The end of the day, what you care about is what someone would say in your eulogy.
Mhm.
It's the love you gave and the time you spent with your kids. And I think that's interesting is we put so much emphasis on this resume that we're trying to build. And at the end of the day, that's not even what we really care about and what we want to be remembered by. So that's something that I think about a lot when I think about where I'm spending my time. The other thing that's really hard, and it's hard for me to give advice in this space because I'm self-employed right now, which is challenging in its own right. I'm spending all of my savings, but for a good cause. That means I have flexibility, and with that comes a lot of responsibility, and it's really challenging to figure out. This phase of balance has been really hard because I have autonomy with it. It's also been such a blessing because I'm able to put time into spaces where when I was working 9 to 5 plus, I didn't have that control, and balance felt relatively out of my control because I was forced to spend so much time in this space. And part of the reason that I want to be a business owner and a leader is because I think there's a better way to do this. And there's a better way to allow people's lives to be more flexible. If you look at studies that have been done about what people care about at work and what makes them happy at work, flexibility is the number one thing now. It's not the money or what they're doing, it's the flexibility. That's because people want to feel autonomous over their lives. They want to feel in control over their lives. And so the more that you actually give that to someone, the more that they're going to want to perform for you as well. It'll be really interesting to see how I'm able to implement that into the business that I own, but I have found that so important to my own life for, again, being able to fill my cup before I serve others. And it's such a staple. I want to make sure that I'm allowing my employees to do the same thing. And that's definitely not forcing them to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Like, as a society, we're not in that anymore. It just doesn't really make sense. And honestly, all it does is just feed capitalism, which we're going off on a tangent now. But at the heart of it, it's like I have the hardest time advising people in this space because I am in such a blessed situation in that I actually do have autonomy over the where I spend my time.
Hmm.
And I felt the most out of balance and challenged when I didn't have that because I was in a stricter job.
And I think also, this is a side note, but I just think the 9 to 5, like the 8 hours a day, it just doesn't make sense for it may make sense for some jobs, depending on what they are. But for so many, especially if it's like a remote work from home job, it just doesn't make sense. Like some days you work 10 hours and some days you work 4. There is an exact formula to working from my computer at my home, but it can be hard if, you're required to be somewhere for a certain amount of time.
I found myself when I was working a 9 to 5, I was either sacrificing, there were all these other things I want in my day, right? I like slow mornings. So I like to wake up and have time for myself in the morning. That's the part of me that likes to fill my cup before. So I like to have 2 hours between waking up and working so that I can do my movements, have my coffee, eat my breakfast, and not be in a rush. And then I want to get a workout in, whether that's at the gym or walking. I like to cook, so I want to cook my dinner and maybe social, maybe watch one show or read a book. And then I want to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. And when 8 of your hours, plus commuting for a lot of people, is dedicated to work, you have to sacrifice all of these other things. This is where I'm like, I wish I had this smoking gun, bullet, whatever, silver bullet of like the answer here, but I don't. And that's why I can't wait to explore that with my own business because it makes my brain hurt thinking about how a large corporation can make changes in that. But I think I
Mhm.
can maybe do some small changes on a smaller
Yeah.
scale to
Yeah.
figure that out.
Well, I think even if you're just open to the idea of it, you'll find a way to implement it and your
Yeah,
employees will value that. You know,
right.
you don't have to have it all figured out and you can course correct as you go. But I think as long as you really truly value the people working for you and you want to be able to provide them a flexible work life, I think that's a beautiful thing and you'll figure it out. You can figure it
I
out.
mean, they've done studies as well that show that the average person is only productive for like 2 to 3 hours of those eight
I
days
know.
or eight
I
hours. It's like there's a New York Times op-ed about how this cycle is just, it fuels the capitalism because you're like, don't want to be at work. So you're disassociating on your phone. You're buying stuff to make yourself feel better because you're not actually doing the things that fill your cup, like going outside and spending time in nature because you don't have time to do them. And so you're finding
Well,
other ways to get that satisfaction, even though
yeah.
you know it's a quick fix and it's not actually the root cause, but you don't feel like you have access to fixing it. So,
Okay, let me see if I can verbalize what I'm thinking. But it feels like if you can't work 8 hours straight and be productive the entire time, you're different. I've seen so much stuff where it's okay, you're this personality type that has bursts of energy and then you rest for a while. Or, you're like identifying yourself as something other than when I
right.
think in reality, most of us operate that way. Like most
Yeah.
people aren't 8 hours straight, fully like productive on their computers. It's just not.
No.
Yeah.
Every day too, right? Like
Yeah.
I have times where I lock in, I wake up that day, I feel really energized. I put my cinematic chill out playlist on, which is just like movie scores, and I can lock in for 4 to 6 hours at a
Hmm.
time. But I can't do that 5 days a week. I can't even do that multiple days in 1 week, likely. That's probably one day, 1 week, and then not even the next week do I do something like that. Because it takes so much energy to really lock in and focus like that. So I agree. It's just like we're trying to force, you know, also back when this was created, people were working with their hands and doing things in person, right? And then you also left your work at work. You didn't have a cell phone and a computer that had it come back with you and felt like it was with you at all times. So there's a lot of reasons I think that are leading to this shift in the way people want to work, the way people care to show up to work. But I think it's definitely broken. And especially if we're finding studies that show that people aren't even productive for 50% of the time that they're working. It's like, give them that time back. They're going to be so much better for you if they have that other time to care for themselves.
Well, we've talked about a lot of different things.
God, what are you even going to title this podcast?
I don't know. I'll have to figure
all
that
over
out.
the place.
But it's good. I mean, it does all tie back to balance, right? And figuring out, well, the big piece of it is take care of yourself first and then figure out what balance looks like for you because it looks different for everyone. That's why I like having nuanced conversations around drinking, but even everything else we talked about, because it really can look different for everyone. You have to figure out what works for you.
The biggest thing for me is creating these routines that have guardrails, but that allow for flexibility in between because I'm a very routine person in that I really like my consistency. But I found if I'm too strict with what I think balance is one day and then force it into the next day, it doesn't always work. So it's like, how can I allow balance to be a sliding scale while also having structure? It's hard.
Yeah, it is, but you also can allow yourself to figure it out every
Yeah,
day because it might look different each
exactly.
day.
100%.
Stability, but flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Super
we're figuring
easy.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we're figuring it out every day.
Yeah. And we will continue to figure it out. Probably
Exactly.
forever.
Yes. That is the human experience.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners?
I think that's my big summary is like we're always going to be trying to come back to homeostasis as like a being and allowing yourself that flexibility to show up different every day is going to make you ultimately a happier person, especially as a woman where our hormones are different every single day. So
Yeah, seriously.
give yourself grace. You're not going to be the same person every day. Listen to what you need, and then that's how you'll find balance and be in flow.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, before we end, I always like to ask, what is making you cozy this week?
I anticipated this. Well, it is cozy season.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things have been making me feel cozy. The few things that make me feel the coziest right now is we have some ambient light decorations for fall out. And so when it gets dark, our living room becomes this little cozy ambient light decoration thing. And I love it. And then also, I'm drinking my coffee and tea out of little pumpkins and ghosts. And that just makes me happy every morning. I love a theme. I love the holidays. I'm always wanting to have some sort of theme thing going on. So I love when it's Halloween into Thanksgiving into Christmas because that allows me to change up my coffee mugs and change out the decorations and just really feel nice and cozy.
I love that stuff. I don't have a pumpkin mug though. I might have to get one. This is the best season. You also know here in Vegas, the weather just turned. Do
Yeah.
you know that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It's
always
like,
turns like right, it gets really cold right on Halloween. You
oh,
have like 2 weeks of fall and then it's like winter on
yeah.
Halloween. I always remember that as a kid, especially in high school, and I wanted to be like a little bit slutty. And then it's like Halloween comes around and I'm like, I'm freaking freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually pretty cold out right now, but I know Halloween is always the day when it shifts. So that's making me feel cozy. So I can finally wear sweaters again and long sleeve and layers of clothing. But what I was going to say is we're going to Gilcrease Orchard this weekend we already have a lot of pumpkins outside, but I think we need more. So
There's
we're
never
going to,
enough.
no. Also, like, I think I should put pumpkins inside,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go and pick our own pumpkins and put them
Oh,
inside and outside.
fun. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so fun. Oh, I love that. This was so fun.
Thank you for being on the podcast. It was
Of
a
course.
wonderful conversation. Do you have anything you want to plug? Your
No, I don't have
your
anything.
Facebook?
Yeah. It's literally a burner account. It's not even my full name. I don't have a picture or anything. I like Facebook Marketplace a ton, and I'm sure they're like,
Yeah.
who's this creep that like joined Facebook in 2025, has no picture? Nothing to
Okay.
plug. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe
Fair
in the
enough.
future. I'll come
Okay.
back when I have something to plug.
Okay. That would be great. Okay. Well, I will link my socials that I have for now in the show notes, and that's really it. Thanks, Katelyn, for being on the podcast.
Love you.
Love you. All right. Stay cozy, everyone. Bye.
Bye.